Sometimes it seems like there are just too many election forecasters out there, from industry stalwarts like the Cook Political Report and Sabato's Crystal Ball, to the data journalists over at 538 and Decision Desk HQ. Maps and predictions are everywhere. What I've done here on this sheet is compile the latest top-line ratings from the 8 most prominent sources and averaged them out to produce a consensus rating that I will use to fill out this 2024 electoral map. As we go, I'll do my best to provide a little bit of context into why each state is rated as it is and compare it to the latest betting odds via Bet Online to see whether the markets differ. Alrighty, let's start with the solid states where neither the Harris or the Trump campaigns have to bat an eyelid, starting with Trump, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, and Alaska. Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska's statewide race and the 1st and 3rd districts, and then both South and North Dakota. Then there's Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina. And to wrap things up, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana. With the lone exception of Iowa, every single forecaster has these states down as solid or safe for the former presidents. And the odds over on BetOnline have Republicans at minus 10,000 or better odds, which effectively translates to a better than 99% chance of winning. Now, some forecasters do label Iowa as likely after it only voted for Trump by about 8 points in 2020, as compared to more than 15 points pretty much everywhere else. The split here, though, is 5-3, with 5 having it down as safe and 3 likely. Either way, though, Trump should win Iowa, barring something extraordinary happening. As for Kamala Harris, her safe states are Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii. Colorado, Illinois, New York, Maine's 1st District, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. Now, the only state here that is rated as likely by some forecasters is Colorado, as they are split 5-3 in the solid D column. The rest of these states are all unanimous, and again, in a state like California, for example, Democrats are at minus 10,000 odds as well. Alrighty, let's move on to the likely states now, where things get a little more interesting, though still, barring some massive shift here down the stretch of the campaign, they should end up going red or blue by comfortable margins. For Trump, that category includes Ohio, Maine's 2nd congressional district, and the Lone Star State, Texas. Now, Ohio is almost identical, electorally speaking, as Iowa, the Buckeye State, and the Hawkeye State. It also backed Trump by 8 points in 2020, and several forecasters also have it rated as solid R, though the split here is actually even at 4-4 as opposed to 5-3 solid in Iowa. As for Maine's 2nd district, 2 forecasters have it as a lean state, while 6 have it down as likely for the former presidents. It did vote for Trump by 7 points in 2020, a couple points narrower than in 2016, but considering that the national popular vote did trend to the left between those elections, Maine's 2nd district maintained a similar degree of Republican lean overall. It's also worth mentioning that Maine 02 is extremely rural and one of the oldest and whitest districts in the nation. All factors that should continue to trend favorably for Republicans in coming cycles. Finally, Texas, worth 40 electoral votes. It's the 2nd largest prize on the map, and it has slowly become more competitive over the last couple decades, culminating in Trump's 5.6% victory margin in 2020, the lowest for a Republican this century. Yet with the Republican Party making considerable gains among Hispanics, especially here in the Rio Grande Valley, it's hard to see Democrats improving on that lean R 2020 margin this November. And as you see here, all but one forecaster actually sees it as trending more Republican into the likely R category. The BetOnline odds, meanwhile, they have Republicans at minus 1,000, flat, which equates to a roughly 90% chance of winning. So Democrats have about a 1 in 10 chance. Now let's hit the likely Harris states: Minnesota, New Mexico, Virginia, and Maine's statewide contest. These 4 states lift the vice president up to 221 electoral votes, ahead of Trump's 189. Now, the forecasters are almost unanimous on Maine, with Only Elections Daily having it down as lean D. As for Minnesota, it's kind of all over the place, 5 likely D ratings, while Inside Elections and Decision Desk HQ have it as lean D, and then C-Analysis is solid D. Now, the Land of the Lakes did vote for Biden by 7 points in 2020, and Harris currently leads by 5.3% based on an average of the last 4 polls, ranging from D+5 to D+6, so somewhere between lean and likely makes the most sense based on those data points. Then down in New Mexico, this one is closer to that solid category, with 5 forecasters rating it as likely and 3 solid. 2020 notably marked the first time since 1968 that New Mexico voted to the right of neighboring Colorado, and that is expected to continue here in 2024. Finally, the Commonwealth of Virginia, 13 electoral votes. It's garnered a lot more attention over the last few months than I had expected at the start of the cycle. His polling prior to Biden's withdrawal even showed him trailing Trump less than 4 years after he carried the state by 10 points in 2020. Now, with Harris in the race, she does lead by an almost identical margin as to Minnesota, 5.2%, based on the last 5 polls, ranging from D+2, which was actually within the survey's margin of error, all the way up to D+8, twice. Yet with that said, all but one forecaster does have Virginia as likely Democrats, and the lone exception, C-Analysis, has it as solid. There's not one lean D rating here in spite of those close polls, probably because the fundamentals are just that strong for Democrats here, as it's kind of just hard to imagine the electorate here swinging by more than 10 points in favor of Trump in just 4 years. And that's backed up by the betting odds, where Democrats are favored at -900, another implied probability that is closer to 90%. Alrighty, now that leaves us with just 9 states to go now, plus the 2nd congressional district in Nebraska. They combine for 128 electoral votes that will decide this presidential race, pushing either candidate above the magic number, 270. Before we dig into these states, though, just a quick reminder, less than 20% of you are currently subscribed. Please take a second to click that red button below. It's completely free and it helps me out a ton. Thanks a lot. Let's start with the lean states. Just one state actually falls into that category for Trump, and that is Florida, the 3rd largest prize on the map worth 30 electoral votes. It was once synonymous with the term swing states, but now the Sunshine State is only a secondary battleground after Trump carried it by 3.4% in 2020, making it one of only 5 states where he improved on his 2016 performance. Now, polling this cycle suggests that he might win the state by as much as 6 points. That would be the largest margin for a presidential candidate of either party in over 30 years. And here you see on the sheet, the forecasters are split between it being likely and lean. There are 4 ratings in each category. And then Trump's odds via BetOnline sit at -700, an implied probability of approximately 85%. Now, these 30 votes do lift Trump all the way up to 219, just 2 votes shy of Harris now, before we get to the lean D ratings. Here in Nebraska's 2nd district, and then up in New Hampshire. Now, Nebraska 02 voted for Biden by 6.5 points in 2020, and it's very urban, surrounding the city of Omaha with a high proportion of college graduates. A couple of demographic factors that do lead forecasters to suggest that it may trend even further to the left in 2024, perhaps likely D territory. Similar story in New Hampshire, 3 of 8 are likely Democrat after it backed Biden by 7 points in 2020, as it saw one of the strongest pro-D shifts from 2016 when Trump almost defeated Hillary Clinton. But back on our map, now with these ratings done, that leaves us with only the 7 core battleground states that we have talked about all cycle long, and all but one of these remain in the toss-up category. That is Michigan, worth 15 electoral votes, while 4 of our forecasters do have it in the toss-up category, 3 have it as lean D, and 1 tilt D. As such, it will go in the tilt D column to split the difference here on our map. Now, Michigan is certainly the most fundamentally blue of these 7 states, having voted for Biden by almost 3 points in 2020, and the betting odds agree that it is the most likely to vote for Harris again this November. With Democrats at -200, an implied probability of around 67 to 68%, That's almost identical to his odds on Polymarket as well. And back on our map, the other 6 states go down as toss-ups: Wisconsin and Pennsylvania here in the Rust Belt, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada across the Sun Belt as well. That means that the consensus electoral map via these forecaster ratings favors Harris with 241 electoral votes over Trump's 219, though neither candidate comes all that close to 270. So with that said, which way these toss-ups ultimately tip will decide the race. And if you're curious as to my own predictions in each race, check out the video I released yesterday that'll pop up in the top right-hand corner. Without repeating any of those details, I have all but one of these 6 toss-ups tilting in Trump's favor, that being Nevada, which I still do see Harris holding at this point. In this case, Trump wins 291 electoral votes, securing a second non-consecutive term in office. That does it though for today's video. Let me know your thoughts about this map in the comments below. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below as well, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.